From the land of conjurers flying through the internet to your device like a UAP, hauntingly unexplained and downright weird, this is the Witching Hours, and we are ready to take off in the flash of an eye. Good evening to one and all, wherever or whenever you are listening to our program. I am China the Frost, and joining me as always is the medium, Jenny Lee. How are you doing, Jenny?
I think I'm doing all right. Very excited about our guest this evening.
Yeah, we got a great show in store for you tonight. We've been excited about it for a while, so anticipation. Yeah. We're ready. I know you guys are going to enjoy it too. It's been a hectic week around here for us this week, so we're managing to make our way through Thursday. Off we go. Tomorrow's Friday, so
yes.
It's going to be, it's been busy, but we're getting there. A lot of stuff in the news this week. Lots of weird, high strangeness. High strangeness. I tell you, I've been, looking through the news articles. There's so much stuff to talk about, and half of it I don't know if I want to get into because I don't know. Sometimes it just seems a little too dreary.
Yes,
the news world is dreary.
We don't like the dreary ones.
No, but anyway, I guess we'll go ahead. And you ready for some weird news, Jenny?
Yes, sir.
All right. Off we go. And welcome in, everyone. Everyone who's hanging out and chat with us. We appreciate you. Welcome in. Fantasy Animal Vegan, CMC Airboss, Journey of Self-Discovery, Keisha Mama. Love to see all of you in here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. All right. The first one tonight, first story, lucid dreaming breakthrough achieved as researchers report successful control of a virtual object while sleeping.
Huh?
Yeah. So the first two-way control of a virtual object by study participants while lucid dreaming has been documented according to findings of a new research effort. Researchers with REM Space, a California startup, report that 5 participants in the recent study were successfully able to control a virtual Cybertruck while lucid dreaming and even avoid obstacles that appeared on the screen. Humans,
this sounds like fun. Where do we get in on this study?
Yeah. So the article goes into exactly how much time we spend of our lives sleeping. The average time in our lifetime is about 227,000 hours. Or about 26 years, or a third of our life is spent asleep.
Wow.
So while the human body requires sleep for a variety of reasons, which include resting.
That makes me sad, but also very happy at the same time. Because I enjoy sleeping.
But many people lament the amount of time spent on sleep that could be applied towards other activities. Past research has shown that some people may be successful solving problems while they sleep, or at least that sleeping may help reactivate memories in ways that may help an individual glean new insights into issues they are facing or problems they need to solve. So the research at REM Space decided to take these past findings a little further and find out whether people could be connected to computers while sleeping and if they could successfully solve tasks from within the dream state. So REM.
But hold on a second, because now I'm scared of where this is going to go, especially in America. Now that jobs will just make you work while you're sleeping.
It's possible.
You can do this coding while you're asleep. We know, because we can attach you to the computer.
Yeah. So REM Space utilized special equipment based on electromyograph sensors, which detect a person's movements and relay the information back to the computer. And basically creates a virtual avatar. During the study, a Cybertruck was used for which hand movements by the participants caused the vehicle to turn, and light perceived through the eyelids indicated the presence of obstacles. 5 participants who had experience with lucid dreaming were successful in the conscious control of the virtual Tesla. At the same time, their brains indicated they were in REM sleep, confirmed through polysomnographic monitoring.
Neat.
So
I had a lucid dream the other night where I was substituting for an absolutely terrible kindergarten class. And I said, "This is a dream. I don't have to do this."
You don't have to do this?
No.
Yeah. I don't have to take this anymore.
I don't have to take this. Yeah, exactly.
The research study's participants displayed the ability to control an object on the screen for periods from just a few seconds to all the way up to several minutes. So that's
kind of neat.
Pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, those are the worst. having the dreams that you're working, I think, are the worst dreams I've had.
Yes. Where you wake up and you feel like you never left work because you were dreaming about
You were
work all
dreaming
night.
about it all night. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anybody in chat ever
Mhm.
had that happen to them before? It doesn't happen to me a lot now, but in my younger years, it used to happen quite a bit.
Yeah.
The story number 2, NASA urges U.S. public to see April 8th's total solar eclipse and drops a drops a trailer about it. If you haven't seen a total eclipse, you haven't seen anything. So ends NASA's new trailer for what is arguably the celestial highlight, not only of 2024, but of the entire decade.
I forgot that. I keep
Possibly.
forgetting that that's happening. I need to
Yeah.
mark it in a calendar or something. Yeah.
And possibly many Americans' lifetimes. NASA is correct. It's the side of your life, and it's not going to return to North America until 2033 in Alaska and 2044 in Montana and the Dakotas. On Monday, April 8th, a path of totality, the moon's shadow, will travel from Mexico's Pacific coast to Newfoundland and Canada via parts of 15 U.S. states, while only those inside 115-mile wide path will see the eclipse and experience totality. Darkness in the day and falling temperatures. Everyone else in North America will see a partial solar eclipse of varying degrees. NASA also put out a safety reminder telling observers that except during the brief total phase of the total solar eclipse when the moon completely blocks the sun's bright face, it is not safe to look directly at the sun without specialized eye protection or solar viewing. So we might have to do something. I don't know. Maybe we could, we'll have to see what time frame that works out for us where we're at and see if we can maybe have like a group chat or something where people are seeing it.
It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. And we weren't in the path of the last one.
I did get to see one.
Path of this one.
I think in 2018, though.
I think we'll see some kind of partial one here.
Yeah.
We'll see. I know Indiana is going to have total eclipse. So
cool.
I could always go visit family or something. And the last story for tonight, story number 3, doctors remove 150 live bugs from Florida man's nose.
Why is it always Florida?
Florida man is breathing easier now that 150 bugs have been removed from his nose.
Lord. What kind of bugs are they?
Yeah, the unidentified patient went to a hospital earlier this month after noticing that his whole face felt like it was on fire.
Oh, good
Although
Lord.
the man first started experiencing symptoms in October, it wasn't until recently that they became serious. Over a couple of hours, my face started swelling. My lips swelled. I could hardly talk, the patient told First Coast News. I couldn't even get up to go to the bathroom without my nose starting to bleed. The man visited Florida Memorial Hospital in Jacksonville and consulted with a doctor, an ear, nose, and throat specialist. Carlson was shocked when he looked inside the man's nose with a camera. He saw dozens and dozens of bugs feeding on the nose and sinus cavity, some as big as the end of a pinky finger. I knew he was in big trouble. There was erosion that was occurring near the skull base in very close proximity to his eyes and his brain, Carlson said. At first, the physician tried using suction to remove the insects, which were in the larval stage, but they were too large, so he had to extract them one by one from the man's nose.
Holy, that guy needs a medal.
They were right up against his skull base, right under the brain, and if they had gone through, it could have killed him, said the doctor.
Wow.
The bugs have since been sent to an epidemiologist to determine their species. The patient is expected to make a full recovery. It remains a mystery how the larvae got inside the man's nose. He told First Coast News that the problem might have stemmed from his bad hygiene habits when handling dead fish.
Oh, good Lord.
Before I would rinse my hands in the river. Now I'll use cleaner water to do a better job and not touch my nose next time.
Soap, people, soap. Goodness gracious. I didn't even know what kind of bugs they were. That's the scariest part, I think.
Yeah.
Made my face hurt just thinking about it.
Yeah, that was pretty. I saw that one a few times today, so I figured, well, I might as well put it in.
Thanks for that. You get us all nightmares.
Let's go from small little things to talking about some bigger things.
Yay.
Ron Morehead has been known for decades for his worldwide research in the Bigfoot Sasquatch phenomenon. He is an author, researcher, lecturer, experiencer, and producer of the Sierra Sounds. To date, he comes closer than any other researcher to having a complete body of evidence. The Sierra Sounds are the only Bigfoot recordings that have been scientifically studied, time-tested, and accredited as genuine. Ron has documented his personal interactions with these giant beings and produced his story on a CD and also in a book, Voices in the Wilderness. In order to try to understand the enigmas associated with these giants, he began to delve into quantum physics for the scientific answers that he and his hunting friends experienced. And as a result, he wrote another thought-provoking book, The Quantum Bigfoot. Ron now resides with his partner at Cary, North Carolina, but has traveled from Alaska to Patagonia and from North America to Siberia in search of the truth to know how these beings are able to stay hidden from classical science. Besides being the keynote speaker at many conventions, he has been featured on countless radio programs and TV documentaries such as the Learning Channel and the Travel Channel. Please welcome to the show tonight, everyone, Ron Morehead. Welcome to the show, Ron.
Well, thank you very much, Jeremy. It's a pleasure to be with you guys. I appreciate you inviting me on.
Yeah.
I don't know how everybody else feels, but I love some Bigfoot. So I'm so excited.
Oh no, it's given me another reason tonight not to smell fish.
Yeah, keep it away from the nose, evidently. Yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious. Yikes.
Well, Ron, I was telling you before we started the show tonight, I was talking to you a little bit, and I told you that I was familiar with your story, at least to a certain extent. I think there's a lot to get into that I don't know about tonight. But I wanted to see if we could kind of maybe start from the beginning, so those listening can kind of understand where your story starts with Sasquatch and Bigfoot.
Okay, once upon a time. Here goes. There was some friends of mine that frequented a hunting camp in the Sierra Nevada mountains of California. This is during the early 70s. And two of the brothers who started the camp in 1958, they've been going up there every year hunting 8 miles in the wilderness, and it's about 8,400 feet elevation. So the two brothers went up earlier that year, Johnson brothers, and they came out and had a story about some kind of monster up there. And so the other guys wanted to know what it was all about, so they went up together. There was 5 of them all together at the time now. Well, one of them got scared off when he heard it the first night. He heard these things mouthing off, and he saw their footprint, and he had to get out of there. So the next morning he shot out and wouldn't go back. The wives were worried because the guys hadn't came out when they were supposed to, and they wanted him to go back and check on them. Because at that time, nobody knew what they were dealing with. Nobody was looking for Bigfoot up there. It just happened to happen. And he wouldn't go back without me going with him, or somebody going with him, and it was me because I was their friend. So, and I thought I was in pretty good shape anyway. Mm-hmm. It's quite a trip to get in there. So got in there. The guys are okay. So anyway, I got to see them track, and I started. They had taken tape recorders, cassette tape recorders, back up there with them, and they had recorded some of these sounds these creatures had made the night before. I heard those, so it got me involved with the camp. And the one guy, he never would go back and spend the night. So I started going up as often as I can when I could find someone to go with me. So I became part of the group, and I started hunting with them and doing what they did up there. And it was quite exciting. These things started coming around the camp at night and making their rowdy sounds, and they just, doing what they do, all kinds of strange things too. And so it wasn't until 1972 when Warren Johnson, the leader of our group, he wrote a letter to Ivan Sanderson, a cryptozoologist, and 23-page letter. And Ivan Sanderson, thinking it was probably somebody just pulling his leg, went ahead and sent it to a man named Peter Byrne in Oregon. He had the research center there. And Peter, thinking the same thing, nothing doesn't happen. If you see one of these things more than once in your life, that means you've been hit by lightning twice, something like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, he went ahead and sent it down to Alan Berry, who was an investigative reporter working for a newspaper in Redding, California, and asked him if he wanted to go out and check these guys out and see if there was anything to it. He's welcome to do it. So Alan set up a time. He came down and interviewed us all, talked to us all, and heard the sounds, and got convinced that maybe there's something going on, but it's probably just a hoax. So I didn't know they was all thinking hoax, those guys, until I saw the correspondence a few years later in Al's records. So Al went in and he started experiencing the same thing, but he was actually looking for who could be pulling this off, looking for all kinds of signs. But it's hard to imagine somebody like that, David, 8 miles in the wilderness like it is, very rugged area, and it just, he couldn't figure it out. Nobody was hoaxing. So he got kind of caught up in it. He started recording them too. And he ended up fostering the studies. By the way, he had a master's degree in science. Al did. He was a Vietnam veteran, also an officer in Vietnam. And so his master's degree in science told him that he had got to get some scientific cooperation here.
Yeah.
See if it's right or not. You know, it could have been fooled. So he went several academia trying to find someone who would do a study on the sounds, the tapes that he had, and he finally found a Professor Curlin, an electrical engineer. He's a professor of electrical engineering at the University of Wyoming, who took him seriously and said, "Yeah, I'll help you. I'll look at it, biased or whatever, an unbiased opinion. You just want to know if it's good or bad, if there's anything wrong with them. I want to know if they're okay. I want to know." And so Dr. Curlin studied him for a year, and he said it represents at least this one section of it representing an animal compared to the human, 8 foot tall. So he said that was also the sounds they're making outside the human range and inside the human range. And he showed that in a graph in a book that he wrote. He wrote a paper, and that paper's in a book called Man-Like Monsters on Trial, and that was published by UCB Press, 1980. Dr. Curlin gave his report, I believe it was 1978, in Anthropology of the Unknown at the British Columbia College up there, university. So anyway, that's how it got started. If you want me to keep going, I'll just keep rattling on.
So how long were you guys going to this camp? Like, what was the time? When did you guys stop going? How long was it?
Well, I started going, Johnson Brothers started going in 1958.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go till 1971. That's when Donald took me in, and then I started experiencing this stuff, and for years. I mean, until 76. That's when the close-up vocalizations kind of stopped. It was inside a shelter. And the shelter's like a beaver's nest, and it's got like a group of trees that grew in a circle, and a deadfall leaning up against these cables that we wrapped around the tree, or they wrapped around the trees. And the same thing over the top, cables, and then put deadfall on that, plastic on that, so that you get out of the weather. And the door is just 2 trees tricked out on an angle, and a log set between it. That was our doorway. So it looked like a big beaver's nest is what it looked like, and we could all get in there and get out of the weather or whatever. But we'd go in there at night, and that's when these things would usually come around and start.
So the brothers had been going since 1958, but was the first time they experienced something like that in 1971 or 70?
That's the first time they knew it was, because they went outside after all the ruckus was over that one night and saw this huge track.
Yeah.
They realized, the sounds were not a bear. They knew that, so they kept their door closed in the shelter. And the track certainly didn't represent any kind of animal they knew, but it had a huge 19-inch track. And
wow.
They thought, there's something about this monster up here.
Yeah.
But then they got back and kind of related to the Bigfoot, so we thought it's probably just a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
But there's a family of them up there. And so that got us involved in research, or got me involved anyway in the research for Bigfoot. And I'd go up there as often as I could, and for years. Last time I was up there was in 2018. I was up there with David Paulides. I used to go up there every year, at least a time or two, and sometimes 3 or 4, 5, sometimes half a dozen, as many times as I could.
Yeah.
And David Paulides, a Mission 401, the hunted, filmed me up there for one of his documentaries that he does. And that was an interesting trip. I mean, nothing happened, but he had his videographer up there, and we spent 8 days up there, a whole week.
Wow.
Had mules pack us in, and that's when the whole forest of California, everything was on fire about that.
Oh, yeah. Goodness, yeah.
We weren't real sure we was going to get out after the mule train was going to be able to come back and pick us up.
Wow.
Five mules, I think, took everything in and out.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, that was the last time I was there, actually. I flew over in a little plane, and I saw that a lot of the area right around where our camp is didn't look like it had been burned. And what happened, it underburned, where the trees didn't get consumed, like a lot of the other forests did. So it's still there. The camp is still there. It's just not like it was, because I had everything out in 2015. We had to take the cables down, the trees down, everything down. There was everything the Johnson brothers had hauled in there over the years. And it took, I think, 9 mule loads to get everything out of there.
Wow. Yeah, they've been collecting stuff since 1958.
They was ready for the apocalypse.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess now would be a good time to listen to one of the recordings, I would think. Don't you think, Frosty?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Which one are you going to play first?
I think the first one, I'll do the first one, which is the Apollo question. Do you want to set that up for us?
That'd be a better second one if you.
Okay.
That happened a few years later.
Okay, so I have the attention display. We want to play that one first.
Yeah, that's aggressive sound. So.
Okay. Do you want to set that up for anyone, or do we just want to play it?
Well, I think Alan Berry recorded that in 1972, and it's just aggressive. You don't know what they're doing out there. You don't know if they're fixing to bust in at you, or again, it's a hunting camp, so all had high-powered guns with us. We wouldn't be up there without that, and that didn't seem to deter them any. But they didn't bust in after us, and we didn't shoot at them. Wasn't planning on unless they came in after us. So go ahead and play that one, and you'll hear kind of sounds we were hearing in 72.
All right, here we go, guys. So here's some audio we have that was recorded up there. All right, there we go. I mean, that is an odd sound. It's an odd sound. It's odd sounds. And me and you, Jenny, have we were upfront about this earlier. We have heard these before, and we've heard you discuss them, Ron. So it's not fresh for us. So if you have ideas, guys, in chat of what that sounds like to you, feel free to put that in there. Kind of your first takes on it. I will say that we've talked about it quite a bit, Jenny, and it really does sound like communication and an argument, and you can hear different, to me, what sounds like different voices. You pretty much agree with that, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it sounded like two different voices, and one's pissed and one is like, don't be mad at me.
Yeah.
Well, there was
it's like,
Well, just to share something, let me share something with you there. We had a very special person who was only one of 10 people qualified in the state of California as a court interpreter with perfect hearing. And she listened to him and she said, that's a male and a female arguing. It just lets you know the female won.
Yeah, absolutely. She was giving him what for.
At the time you're hearing that, you don't know if they're arguing over what. You don't know what they're arguing over. If they're arguing over coming in and get you, or for looking for the salt and pepper. You don't know.
Yeah. I might have heard that myself a couple of times, Ron, when I was asked to take the trash out or something. I'm not.
I was getting ready to say,
sure,
he forgot to take the trash out that night. It sounds like language.
Yeah, it is language.
There's so many different, ups and downs, and there's no way that's just animal noise.
Well, it was language, and that's been established now by a cryptolinguist from the Navy, Scott Nelson, who retired from the Navy as a cryptolinguist. His job was to listen to different sounds coming through their air to see if it's a code or a language or what. And if it was a language, he had to find out. He had to transcribe it and also find out if there's any deception in it. And that's what he was trained to do. He came out and seen us in 2008, and he heard him by accident. He drove all the way out from Missouri, where he already retired from the Navy. He was teaching foreign languages there at the college, and he came out to interview myself and Alan Berry and got the context behind the sounds, asked if he could study them too. So he came back later and said, this is a language by the human definition of language, which is, I had no idea just how important it was. We knew they were talking to each other, but we didn't know how important it was.
Yeah.
Language is very special. It takes a morphine stream of words through the high level in here, the nerve system into the brain by the tongue. And that gives us the ability to talk in sapient sentences like I'm talking now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But no animal, according to Dr. Philip Lieberman, Brown University, no other primate on the face of this planet, except humans, are supposed to be able to do that. So to me, that's what my last book is. Just writing. I'm writing about how I think I got the confirmation that these things have a human component. At least what we dealt with up there at the Sierra Camp. I don't think they're all the same all over the world. They're just not all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them have, like the Patterson film, which most everybody's familiar with, that's into the subject matter. I got one of the tracks that Bob gave me, Bob Gimlin, and it doesn't look like ours. It's more human. It's more human-like, where ours is more splayed with 5 toes straight across. Hard to tell a right foot from a left foot. Well, you can tell, but it's very little arch in them. And where the Patterson Gimlin pin had a nice arch, it looked more human-like. It had everything like. So I kind of suspect from my research, and I've been doing this now for 50 years, that according to native lore and a lot of ancient texts that I've listened to or read, and they have crossbred. Some of these things have crossbred with indigenous people, and that makes some of them more human-like, and also maybe some of their original attributes have regressed now a little bit because they mess with us.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. That's interesting to think about.
That wouldn't be so far-fetched of an idea, because we know that Neanderthal and human and Homo sapien bred, and we know, so
Right.
we know there's, for primates, for Homo sapiens, that has been a thing. So depending on what Bigfoot or Sasquatch is, there's a possibility that, that could be possible. I mean, it very much could be possible.
Well, I think it's very likely. It's more than possible. It's probably if anything's possible, but this is. Most people say, well, they don't have the right. We only have 23 pair of chromosomes, humans, Homo sapiens, where other primates have 24. And these things would have to have 23 pair, which that kind of takes it out of academia as well. It can't be then, because only humans have 23 pair of chromosomes.
Okay.
And so that also so it tells me that they have to have a human component in order to crossbreed with us.
Yeah, that's true.
People. And the ones I dealt with up there, we dealt with up there, do have language. So, but the Dr. Lieberman's report, that really made a big deal for me, because he says nothing has that except humans. So there you are. The dots are put together for another little piece of the picture.
All right.
I love it.
So we have a question from CMC Air Boss, and I have a comment coming from Princess Boo Boo too. But what I want to do first, before I ask that question, is to play this one more time before we put it away for the evening.
Okay.
So if you missed it, if you're just getting in, welcome in. We're talking with Ron Morehead, and we are discussing his experiences and his writing and his research and all that about Bigfoot and Sasquatch. And here we're playing the first one of the first audio recordings we're going to play this evening. So get that queued back up again, and here we go. Let us know what you think. All right. So there we go. If you missed it the first time around,
I just love
there
it
it
so
is.
much. It's like he's clearly apologizing, and like I just love how pissed off she is. You know, like
yeah. So see,
Well, they say you can either be right or you can be happy when you're arguing.
yeah. Apparently, they must be more human than we think, because
Yeah,
that's the way we are.
So CMC Airboss asks, can those sounds be put into modern AI programs to decipher the message? Has that been anything that anyone's brought up to you or that you've looked into?
Yes, it has been brought up to me, and that should be done, but it hasn't been done.
It has,
that I know of. I've got the originals still on hard drive, so if anybody got a hook into that or some way to get a good AI program, I'm sure AI will be able to do something with them one of these days, if not now. But it's hard to get academia or anybody outside of this little circle that we're in to take this subject matter seriously.
Very true.
However, the government, I think, knows about these things, just like they knew about UFOs years ago and didn't tell us. Mm-hmm. They only tell us what they think we can handle. You know, they don't want to, and plus, if they can't control something, they'll either hide it or make fun of it. Mm-hmm. So they've so far made fun of this up until recently. Too many people are coming out of the woodwork saying, hey, these are real. We've seen them. And I mean, I've talked to people all over the world now that see these things, and they're not just here in North America, they're everywhere. Mm-hmm. Well, and what are they doing, and why are they here, and why come you can't find a body? You know, how come you can't find remains? Because they're not like an animal out there in the woods. There's more to them, a lot more to them. That's what I get to in my new book.
Yeah.
Yay.
Well, you know, I agree with you on that, Ron, because I feel like anyone who is an investigator into these paranormal topics, whether it's ghosts or whether it's UFOs or whether it's Bigfoot or any other kind of cryptid, they become an easy target for ridicule, and it's easy to make fun of, and it's easy to disregard until you've seen one of those things, and then it becomes real.
Yeah.
That's right. And I know these academia and these professionals that I speak with at these conferences, and they can't get their head around these things being what I suggest they are. And they have a lot more abilities than most people want to give them credit for. And I experienced those things. And Al Berry, like I say, had a master's degree in science, said, don't talk about this strange stuff because you get laughed out of it. They're putting the funny farm, you know. So for a long time we didn't, and I do now, and I have now for the last few years, because a lot of people have come forth and said, you know, how did they disappear? I saw one, I know it just disappeared. Hey, I followed this trackway, and all of a sudden it just stopped. Well, and then you get all these other things going on, and people can't understand it because we're trained in Newtonian physics. And yet the modern science is what we got to get our head around, and that's hard to do for some people. It's hard to realize that, and I put the science behind it, because Al said, stay with science, whatever you do, stay with science. Yeah. So, okay, I'm staying with science, but it's modern science. It's not the, Newtonian physics is based on everything being measurable and predictable and physical, and it's not that way. I mean, everything's that way in our three-dimensional environment.
Yes.
But you get out of that, there's so many more dimensions out there that we don't see. In fact, you only see within certain frequency. Everything, according to Tesla, according to science, is energy, frequency, and vibration, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you, I love this stuff. You get it. But when you get, I think I got the answers to a lot of these woo-woo questions that people come up with, because people call it paranormal, they call it this, they call it that, and they used to call me that, and I don't care, but it's not that. It's quantum physics at work. Quantum physics works all the way from the cell, atom, all the way through the cosmos, according to Professor Christopher Brer at West Texas A&M. So it's out there. It's just we only see within light's frequency, like I say, and that's 420 to 770 terahertz. That's the frequency of light. And once you get out of that frequency, you don't see. You just don't see with these eyes we got, unless you see energy. Energy is different, but you're not supposed to be able to see energy. Now, let me carry this one step further. Can energy and matter exchange? Can they separate? Because that to me solves the issue of these things. People saying they pixelated, they just see them go out. And it's like people seeing ghosts or something. But you see, according to Einstein, these physicists from 100 years ago said matter and energy are interchangeable. Well, Dr. Paul Dirac got the Nobel Prize for antimatter in 1933. Antimatter is a direct exchange between energy and matter. And that was established physically by CERN in 2012 at the Hadron Collider when a particle changed into energy. And they didn't see the energy, but they sensed the energy. So energy and matter are interchangeable, and matter and energy are interchangeable. So if these things, through the advanced, and I mean really advanced vocal mechanism, which they go way above, I don't know how far they go because we weren't recording with anything except cassettes in those days. I do believe they can go way below us in the infrasound because I've been stung by that, and we all have, a lot of people have, where you're affected by something, you don't know what it is. And it's not your fear, it's like a force field or something. And I've had that happen to me a couple times at our camp up there, but if they can reach the frequencies that's outside, way outside the human range, which they can, I know that, but how high can they go, we don't know. I know this, that sound at the 49th octave will turn into light. And there's been reports of these things turn into light. Well, how do you explain? Well, now it's explained. So
you're saying that you think that they can use their vocalizations and to be certain frequencies to where they make
I'm suggesting that. I don't know that.
Yeah.
Obviously we don't know, but I know they have. If they can make the frequency, because Einstein said if you find the frequency of anything, you can change its matter. So if they have the ability to reach way up there, higher than what we're detecting, to change their matter into energy, they go out of your perception.
Wow.
That's my theory. However, it's based on some science of facts. The facts are matter and energy are interchangeable. That would also answer why their trackways stop. And I've had that happen to me once up there. My daughter actually had a sighting, and we found the trackway really deep. We couldn't make a impression in bipedal trackway, and all of a sudden it just stopped. Well,
where to go?
What do you do with that? So that really made me dig my heels in. I got to find out the scientific answer there. How does that happen? How could that possibly happen? There's just more going on than what we know, what we think we know. And you just have to open your mind up instead of being in this conditioned box that we've all been put in. And we've all been conditioned from the time of birth. We've been conditioned. And if you expand out of that and realize how much more is going on, we only smell within. Well, a dog can smell 7 times better than we can, right? We don't have very good olfactory sense at all. A bear can smell 20 times better than we can.
Oh wow!
Okay, a cat. Some animals can see other frequencies that we don't see, like a cat. I had a lady, a very special person who I know well. She's a teacher, and she was out in the woods with her cat, and her cat was walking along. She was just filming things while she was walking out there, and her cat stopped and went like that, and there was nothing. She couldn't see a thing, but she all of a sudden she did see a pixelation over the side, and it was just floating along, and she got a picture of this, not a picture, but a movie picture of this. And I tell you what, it happens. And I know people some people very well that have claimed they've seen this pixelation thing. And if anyone's seen that Missing 401, The Hunted, that David Paulides did with me, the segment right after that shows a very credible lady who was tree hunting, and she was waiting for her game to come along, and she's seen this pixelization moving from one tree to another. And at the same time, there's a UFO being witnessed by a bunch of people down in the town.
Yes. Okay, there's we're getting into we're getting into like a whole bunch of different topics. We can go down some rabbit holes, but first, the pixelization. So you're saying they're seeing it with their eyes, like some kind of like fuzzy mass moving around?
Yeah.
Wow. But it's also being captured on camera as well.
Well, it did that one time from this one
For that
person.
one lady. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, no, actually, there's another lady that did the same thing.
Yeah.
And, her name is Barbara Sue. She's in Oregon, Washington, and she's got that on film. And that's interesting because I think they go through that fourth dimension of time, and they probably get into the fifth or sixth dimension, and that's where they're at for a lot of times. And things don't age like they do in our three-dimensional environment. We live in a very restricted world, but we're here for a very, very important reason. Now, you want to know what that is? All right, I like this.
Well,
what are we here for, Ron?
Yeah.
Well, we're special. We're here for experiences. And responding to experiences is what it's all about.
Yeah.
And if you learn how to respond to experiences with the right attitude, love and compassion, and not be a victim of something or get angry at somebody or want to shoot somebody.
Or fear.
Yeah, fear is your enemy. That's how you affect your own vibrational frequency, because you have a frequency yourself.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of this whole earthly experience of embodiments here that we have is to experience things and to graduate so that we can be what we were intended to be, which I can go way into the Anunnaki now if you want me to.
Oh, goodness. Well, we haven't even got to the UFO part, Ron. Hold on a second.
Okay, I'll slow down. I'll slow down.
I know. The Frosty wants to ask about the UFO thing.
There's already a ton. I mean, so much that we've touched on, because we were still talking a little bit ago about academics and why the academics wouldn't pick up and are hesitant to research on this. And I've had a little bit of insight into that. One is that I don't think academics themselves are hesitant to research it. I think it's just the fact that academics are hesitant to put their name to it. They're hesitant because I had
absolutely.
I knew a professor who had gone out of town to do a seminar and to give lectures and all that stuff, and he said he really dreaded these things because it was just all the same people from all the different universities, all the same other professors he knew all the time, and they would get together at the bar and they would talk about the same things that they were always talking about. And he said it was like he hated going to them. So he said he sat down at the bar one night and he was talking, said hi to all the people that he's seen at all these same seminars for years. And he sat down at the bar and he started talking to the guy next to him, and he thought he was another person on this little lecture thing they were doing. And he said, "So what do you do?" And the guy said, "I'm in town for a Bigfoot hunter thing. That's what I do. I hunt Bigfoot."
Convention.
Yeah. And he said he sat there and talked to him the whole night. He said, "I've never had a more fascinating conversation. I sat there, we had drinks all night, and it was the best conversation I ever had." And he's like, I decided that I wanted to get out of what I was doing and start doing what he was doing. and that came from one of the professors I had actually at a university. So there's interest in there. It's just the fact of putting their name to it. But what I wanted to talk about, and I wasn't sure if we would get there tonight. I was hoping we would. There has been so many times that I've heard of a Bigfoot sighting coexisting or coinciding with a UFO sighting. How often have you heard of this happening, and what do you make of that?
Well, quite regularly, actually. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I saw a UFO up there when this stuff was going on, and I don't know, what do you do with that? What do you do with any of this stuff?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I know, right?
But 1888, Huffington Post came out with this in 2012 an article. The first reported Bigfoot sighting in UFO was in 1888 in Eureka, Humboldt Times, I think it was. That's when a rancher and a bunch of Native Americans at one time witnessed this small moon coming down and 3 crazy bears jumping out of it. Well, what was that? A UFO and 3 Bigfoots maybe or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of reports of these things being connected with UFOs, and I believe that because I believe that aliens have been here for eons and eons, way before Homo sapiens were here, and they've messed with the genome of different species on this planet. they mess with they've tried to do all that stuff, and they've done it. And what's it for depends on their agenda. There's different types of aliens have been on this planet, and a lot of people know what kinds they are. I don't know what kind. I've never witnessed one that I know of, but then sometimes you can witness a hybrid and never know it.
Yeah,
that's
true.
Yeah, we're all hybrids. We're all hybrids. You really want to get down to it. What created us? But yeah, something has messed with the planet's species. And I don't know if it's so they can acclimate their species to this planet, or just the reason for it. They definitely have done that, I think, and that's, you can see that skull behind me that's the Baraka skull, one of them, or a direct duplicate of one. And those things right there were not human. And that's been established by two scientists that were down there, and they got the DNA out of it. And anyway, you got all this stuff going on that we tend to live in a 100-year bubble, and there's so much more has going on.
Very true. Very true.
People just don't want to dig deep enough to really understand what we're talking about. So I'm glad to hear that story you just told, Jeremy. Just really good that because academias they're trained within a certain parameters of discipline, and they got to stay within that, or they'll lose their credibility, they'll lose their funding, some can lose their tenure. I mean, it goes on and on. I know these guys because I've spoke with them, I've talked with them. They can't get out of that. If they talk to you about any other level, they got to put a different hat on.
Yeah.
And just that was that way. And it's just too bad, but they don't take modern science and hook it into this thing that they've been trained in. But they can't get out of that the disciplinary box that they've been trained in.
No, unfortunately.
And one of the things, going back to the UFO connection that I think is interesting is on the surface when you say, okay, the first time I kind of heard about this, that Bigfoot or Sasquatch sightings were often coinciding with UFO or UAP sightings, I thought, well, that's really odd, and I don't know. I just didn't kind of know what to think about it. But the more you think about that, and you actually try to do a thought process of going, okay, well, what could possibly be going on here? It leads to some very interesting possibilities. I mean, the first one is, I think the first obvious one that we've discussed a little bit is Bigfoot extraterrestrial? Or are the extraterrestrials here to talk to Bigfoot and not us?
You guys suck. We're talking to Bigfoot.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that could happen, and chances are it's none of those. It's something that we're not even thinking about. But it's fascinated me once I actually started thinking about what could be going on.
Now that I've heard Ron's theory about them being able to shift themselves into light, that makes so much sense to me. Why ET would be not necessarily interested in them, but they would be able to interact with them, because that's what ET is doing. They can also make themselves, they can travel by turning themselves into light and non-matter. So the fact that if Bigfoot is doing the same thing, then the ETs would probably see them as more of an equal to them than we would be, because we're still, banging sticks together or whatever.
Yeah. Well, anything that comes into our perception has to lower its density enough to be perceived by our senses. And we use our senses to perceive things, but we only use our five senses that we're told about, sight, smell, all that. What about your other sense, the one that comes through your pineal gland? And if it gets connected to the heart, and the heart's your main center, by the way. It has its own brain too. That has to be in coherence with the outside brain that has been conditioned. So many times when we see something like maybe we think it's a bear getting into a dumpster or something, it might have been a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Well, but our brain has to put it within what we've been trained, this outside brain. Sometimes your heart will tell you something different, though. It will tell you, turn right, don't turn left, because something better is over there. You need to learn, if we all learn to listen to our heart, but you have to get in coherence. That's what meditation is all about. So that gets us off the UFO subject for a second.
Yeah.
I think all three of those things have to be in coherence. You have to have your receptor open, because we calcify our pineal gland with our That's a third eye, that most people understand. That has to be open, and it gets calcified with the food we eat and all that. So I started eating just nothing but non-GMO and just good stuff, all the time, because we've all been conditioned, and that unfortunately, that calcification upon your pineal gland is stopping us from receiving the intuition and the information we're supposed to receive. A lot of people are more intuitive than other people. That's because they haven't had that issue going on with their pineal gland.
I like you, Ron. I like you.
Your pineal gland is also, those little crystallization is all around it, and that's a receptor.
Yeah.
So once you get all that going through your system and get it all connected in 3 parts, you'll be in good shape, because your vibrational frequency, you do the right thing, number 1, and you don't get sick anymore, number 2. That's the good part. I've been sick in ages, so I'm not even going to knock on wood, because I think I'm a Bigfoot. But it's we have to go through things on this. We have challenges, all of us do. And responding to those challenges is what's so critically important. Of course, that's what the masters taught it all, turn the other cheek, just be good, be good. We're a warring species.
We are.
We're a warring species, and
unfortunately,
we gotta not be. To change all that.
We gotta knock it off.
Yeah. Well, we always think that we're gonna. Well, we got a couple. I wanted to get in. There's a lot of things from Prince. There's a few things I
has a question.
Well, the first one I wanted to talk about is going back up earlier. She made a statement, which is she's a friend we have from down under. So
she's from Australia.
The Aboriginal in Australia think they are human and have magic and live for like 300 years. Talking about Bigfoot in Australia.
The Yowies.
Yeah, and there was one other thing. So I'm from Yowie Bigfoot country in Australia, and we have Yowie status and parks named after them here. Have you ever had a chance to check any of that out, Ron, down there in the...
Not yet. I wanted to go to Australia a couple of times. I thought I was going one time with a crew, but I didn't go. And no, I know they've got that story down there, and they indigenous people will think they're doing magic, but what they do is once they step out of your visual perception, they get out of this 3-dimensional environment. They don't age. They don't age like we do. I mean, they could live a lot longer than that, because once you get out of this environment, you're not aging like we do in our linear time. So they could live a lot longer than 300 years, but again, maybe who knows what their telomeres were clipped off like. We all had our telomeres clipped. We only live 100, 120 years. Where man used to live hundreds of years, and if you get into the King's List from Mesopotamia, when the Anunnaki were here, a lot of them lived for thousands of years. That's why I get into AI and everything, but wait a minute. This is my new book.
New book's coming out.
It's coming out the 15th of March. And,
Bigfoot Unveiled. So what's the new information in that book?
Oh, I can't tell you that. You wouldn't buy the book.
No. Give us a hint. Give us a hint.
Okay, hint. I get into Tesla's 3, 6, and 9, the manifestation code. I get into how a lot of this stuff relates to what we're saying, relating to Bigfoot. I get into AI, which I think that's really important for us nowadays. Really important.
It's huge.
It's the wolf in sheep's clothing is what I call it.
Yes.
And once it gets consciousness, we're all in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. I mean, didn't we make enough movies about that already? Didn't anybody learn a lesson from the movies we made about it?
Well, heck, if they can't learn from Star Trek, what are they going to learn from it?
Yeah. Well, it's AI. CMC brought up that question earlier, but I mean, everything is AI machine learning right now, and I feel like fighting that right now is like if you were riding a horse and you were fighting against Ford in the Model T. I mean, it's inevitable at this point. It's already here, and it's already taken over.
You're right.
Yeah,
That's all.
I noticed. Look, I'm kind of a computer nerd, And I just noticed in my windows the other day that there was a little colorful rainbow thing down in the bottom corner of my screen. And I clicked on it, and it's the AI window. So then I ended up spending like an hour just putting stuff in, and it was doing all kinds of things for me. And I'm also an educator, so I see AI being, going into the classroom and like teaching. Teaching is going to be completely different now with AI. And I mean, AI isn't just like one thing; it's taking over almost any and every industry that exists. So it's.
Well, let me tell you one little thing that I think about, and I put it in my book. This is my own personal thought here. Excuse me. But once AI reaches a certain place, and it's going there really rapidly, when it can offer you a body that won't die, and your consciousness can be transferred into that body, so you don't get hurt anymore. I mean, you don't feel pain, all the stuff that we're dealing with as human beings. What do you think about that? That's a little scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
However, you might be able to go into the fifth and sixth dimension with a Bigfoot. Who knows? You might be holding it. I don't know. However, if you're really into studying the cuneiform texts and looking at the Mesopotamian records, what's going on back there with what the cuneiform text? That's the first written language. And get into the Anunnaki, they pretty much messed around with us and made us. There's good ones and bad ones. Some of them are when it gets the it's not like a Star Trek term I fix to say, but you're not supposed to mess with interfere. Don't interfere.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the prime directive. Yeah.
The prime directive.
There you go. Prime directive. Hey, you're all right, guy. You're on Star Trek. I love it. Yeah.
Well, you don't start a show talking about UFOs and Bigfoot and stuff without having a couple episodes of Star Trek in your pocket.
Yeah. But anyway, AI is headed that way, and I think that's why we're living in such an important time for this information to come out. We're heading into the age of Aquarius now, which we're slowly moving. That's what 2012 calendar was all about from my end. And we're all being enlightened more through programs like this, and we're able to spread it and do it better with it and help people, and that's what we've got to do to get this warring species under control.
Yes.
And if we don't, we're going to lose this planet. It's just on the edge like that. So, I'm not sure where I was going with all that, but AI is important.
Yeah, it's I mean, I know the show isn't about AI, so I'll get off the topic there. But it is.
I know what I was going to tell you.
What's that?
The Anunnaki were light beings, powerful ones from the sky, right? That's been determined through the translation of the cuneiform text. And they were ninth dimensional beings, powerful ones, light beings. Even Satan was called the shiny one. Okay? So you got this element over there, the Anunnaki, and they're ninth dimensional beings, and they created us in their image. Wow. That rubs a lot of religions wrong right there, but But the Anunnaki are good and bad. That does not eliminate God, who is, by the way, in the cuneiform text, the word Elam, which was transferred out of the cuneiform text into the several languages all the way through, it was always plural. And it was transferred as God as singular in the Hebrew text. Because every time it has been translated all the way from starting with Constantine all the way through, whoever is in charge at the time and wants to control the people is going to control the narrative.
Absolutely.
True today. And that's true today. So you got to think about those things and get out of the box that you've been conditioned in and realize that there is a masterful frequency consciousness up there that we're all part of. And well, I think people need to research this on their own.
Yes.
Kick me out of the church for I was raised in Christian belief, and I am a Christian, and I believe I was raised religiously though, so I know a lot of scriptures. And when I got into how how things were from the cuneiform text and how things really are happening, how it relates to what I'm reading in the Bible. You just see how it all has been juggled around a little bit, and but the whole idea is still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just you got to put it together and look at the big screen instead of this little circle that we're in.
It's almost like it was all split up into little splinters that were kind of tucked away in different parts of the world. And you have to go kind of find it all and put it back together again to get the complete story.
I think you're right, Jeremy. That's good.
Yeah.
I'll keep talking.
There was a question from Princess Boo. Let's see if we can find it, because it was okay. Can one person see Bigfoot and another not see them?
I think so. I do. I don't know if it's them who puts the heinous on the one and the good thing on the other one, or if it's the people's frequency, their individual frequency that they can tune into that cause them to see them, and this person not. Or if they can actually, because I think they have a way of entangling your mind if you're on the right frequency, which is a good thing, because they're not supposed to interfere, but they do interfere. I mean, everything has a free will, even the Anunnaki. Bigfoot has a free will.
Absolutely.
So they want to, if they can tune into your frequency, they can mind speak and tell you. But you got to analyze that. I'm very analytical, and if it was you thinking about something, or if it was really something else trying to come to you. So always trying to figure out what I was thinking of. It could have maybe brought that thought to me, or if it was just through my receptor.
Yeah.
So talking about possibly talking to Bigfoot through the mind.
All right. Well, I just gave you a hint.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, Ron, because Jenny, our co-host here, is a medium. And so that's something we've talked about before, because you have said, Jenny, that you have not seen Bigfoot, and we have not really had a chance yet, although we would like to go on some maybe excursions. But you have sensed Bigfoot, correct?
Yes. At least twice. And one time it was just a knowing. Like, we lived in the middle of the wilderness and the foothills of Virginia, and I was turning down onto our driveway going into the woods, and I was just like, I just knew that, like, somewhere very close there was a Bigfoot, and I couldn't see it. I didn't smell anything. Like, I never heard anything. I just knew that it was there. And then when we went to do a paranormal investigation at Lake Shawnee Amusement Park in West Virginia, I was doing my sweep, my medium sweep, and I look over in the mountain across the road, and I'm like, oh, there's a family of Bigfoot over there. It's like, I just knew, like, I didn't have to see it. So yeah, those are my only kind of Bigfoot things that I've experienced.
Well, good. I mean, thing is, that can happen, and I think it's your entanglement, your frequency's right. You have a good intention. Let's put it that way. And the biggest thing that can hurt somebody in that area is their fear, because whatever your attention is on is what will feed. And there's also a lot of dogman stories in this area.
Oh yes, yeah.
I was on a program just the other day where they had all kinds of dogman sightings. That's why anytime they want to go out, they can see a dogman. Well, if your attention is there and your frequency is right, that can happen. And I think the same thing is true with Bigfoot. Why do we have our encounters? Because maybe our frequency was right. It was a clean camp. I say clean. No drugs, nothing, no alcohol, nothing involved up there like that. We're up there having fun. You got to have fun, I think. And you got to be happy. Be happy.
I agree.
Yeah.
Happy brings your frequency up.
Yes.
And they like that, I think. However, there are malicious ones out there, depends on what the agenda is. I was in Port Locke, Alaska, that Alaska Killer Bigfoot, I think it was a documentary Discovery put out. I was on episode 4 and 5, I think, and they had these Bigfoot-like creatures tearing their village apart in the late 40s, and they killed like 3 dozen people.
Wow.
They just abandoned and it wasn't a bear. They said it was a big creature like Bigfoot. And they abandoned the village in about 1950, and they wanted to rehabilitate it, to start up their fishing village again and to do what they used to do. And they wanted to know if it was safe. So they thought they'd bring me up there and tell them if it was safe or not. Well, that didn't put any pressure on me, does it?
Yeah. Go out there and see. If you get killed by the Bigfoot, then we know it's not safe anyway.
Right. Well, I had the privilege of flying over in a helicopter when they took me in there quite a bit, and I looked around like that. And years ago, you could see the growth that came up from the trees, because they had been heavily timbered. And from the pictures I saw from years and years ago, from their village, they had been really fishing a lot too. So they were probably depleting the environment. And they're also mining the area. And I got a feeling, and this is what I told them, is that I think if you just respect the land, you'll probably have better results.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a chapter. My new book has got a chapter on trees, just how important trees are to these creatures. They're important to us.
Absolutely.
They give us our life, our air, and what do? We cut them up for furniture.
Exactly.
Burn them or something.
And paper.
And I just said I've had so many reports about these things being seen around trees and cutting trees. So I think that was something going on up there. I think if one of these things would have came out of the woods there and said, I screamed at them, 15 foot tall, big hairy monster, they'd probably shot at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that would have pissed it off.
Yeah.
So,
it was already pissed off because it was taking all the trees.
grab an arm or two and sling them around,
Yeah.
Anyway, that's not funny, but it's probably what happened, and that's just my opinion. There's no one around that really was still alive that could attest to any of this stuff. But it's a fact. It's a fact that it happened. It was in the newspapers and everything. And the village is there. I was there and stayed there a few days. I say village, it's abandoned. And there's a lot of bear there, that's for sure. But we have a lot of bear at the Sierra Camp, too. These things cohabit with nature like we're supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
we were just talking about that the other day. Have removed ourselves from nature. Like we're so
what? That's planned too. I mean, it's not planned by who. Not well planned.
Yeah.
We've learned to depend on money and things, and go to the grocery store to get our food. Years ago, if you think about it, people used to grow their own garden. They used to plant raise their own beef. They used to hunt for their own food, and that's how they lived off nature.
Yep.
And nowadays, they've got us depending on money, and you can't change it. I mean, it's just the way it's going to be until we have to reboot and start over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're forced to.
Yeah. Well, I want to say,
much.
We've talked a little bit about the science and the theoretical side of some of Bigfoot, but real quick, I wanted to kind of get back down to the basics of some of the investigations and what you've seen. What would you say is some of the best physical evidence that you've seen for Bigfoot?
Besides ours, you mean, at the camp?
Yeah. I mean, because I know there's been lots of hair samples that have been taken and lots of tracks. Is there anything that really sticks out to you, that physical evidence that you've come across or saw or anything like that?
Well, there has been a DNA presented, to a couple of different geneticists, but it gets both thumbs down by academia because of its human component they find in the mitochondrial.
Okay.
And that's just outside of what it can't be that. I mean, don't confuse these people with the facts.
Yeah.
That's where it goes.
So because it has some kind of human DNA element, they're just saying it's like a contaminated. They're saying it can't be Bigfoot. It's human, but it's contaminated, and they can't figure out what to do with it. So then they just ignore it, essentially.
Well, they claim it's contaminated because it has human in it. But according to the geneticists, two different geneticists that don't even know each other, I don't think. One of them got an eDNA out of Bhutan, 17,000 feet from the bipedal track they took eDNA out of that, and came back as part human. And then you got, of course, the geneticist that really, in the United States here in Texas, she did a DNA study and swore up and down it wasn't contaminated, but they gave her a thumbs down too because she said it had human in it. And these people are going to be vindicated, I feel, because if they would just get a hold of this data that I've got here, which I'm just coming out with about this, what puts it together as being a human component in it, and then all the sightings that people have claimed it has a very human look to its face, and that's got to have some kind of weight. You got not just hundreds of people, but thousands of people now reporting seeing these things.
Yeah.
And if you really want to get into scriptural, which you probably don't, but as it was in the days of Noah, so should it also be the second coming. Well, giants were here then. They were manipulating the DNA, creating hybrids. I got a chapter on hybridization too in my new book. And, it's just things are happening at a fast pace here. This AI thing coming in is just really taking it to a cap, I think. And so we're going to see some interesting stuff in our lifetime. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty old already. I was 29 when this thing started with me, and I'm not getting younger, but I hope I'm here to. I think I hope.
Yeah, you think you hope? Yeah, depends on what happens. Which way is this swinging?
Well, aliens are here. They've been here for ages, and they're just out of our perception right now. However, they are coming down. A lot of them are coming down as hybrids.
Yeah, there was something written in there about there were giants in those days. So yes. I mean, that's been talked about quite a bit.
Genesis 6:4, but then you get into the Enoch, the book of Enoch, which was not canonized because they didn't agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it's been a while back now, Ron, but some of our weird news segments that we were doing, it was probably a year or more ago. There was actually kind of a rash of giant sightings down in like Central and South America. So, and I don't even, know if that's, Bigfoot being mistaken for giants, or if people were seeing, literal giants, and the whole idea of giants being in North America when Europeans first came here, could that been mistaken Bigfoot sightings and stuff like that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
well, I think we have to define what is a Bigfoot. Because we're calling them all Bigfoot, but that just means
they're all different, really.
Yeah, and giants down in South America are commonplace, and UFOs are commonplace. And I've been in Nepal, I've been in Siberia, I've been into Russia, I've been into different countries chasing this enigma down. And
I actually want to get into that a little bit with you because we talked about Australia, but before we move on, some of the questions I have about that, we did have another question from CMC, and he said he lives in Bigfoot Central, Northwest Washington State, and wondering why modern search tools like IR sensors aren't yielding results during their searches for Bigfoot. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. I think I probably know who that guy is. Well, I know I'm from there, so I was on the Olympic Peninsula for a long time, and I'm very aware of a lot of the things going on. A lot of stuff going on there, but they never can capture it on their trail cams or even their IR, their infrared sensors, or their flares, for the heat sensing. However, they might get lucky because once these things get into our three-dimensional environment, they will put out heat. And they will be able to be seen. They can be shot when they're in that. They can be, go all the way back into Fred Beck from St. Helens, 1924, when he claimed he shot one. Never could get the body, though. But he also said in his writings that they would have had to jump 160 feet to have not left another track in the mud.
Wow.
So he claimed until he died and day that they were paranormal, that they were something alien about them. I just think that these things are able to sense trickery. They're really tuned into our efforts to try to expose them, and they stay away from it because they don't want to be exposed yet. It's not their time, and the government can't answer the question because they can't control them.
Yeah.
But they can sense. I know they sense infrared. I'm quite sure they do. But there's also been people that claim they picked up this heat sensing, but then that doesn't really give you any definition, a really good definition unless they come right up to it. So it has happened, and it can happen again, and it might happen again, but it's just not a common thing because people are trying this. I took IR, we took infrared sensing up to the archipelagos in Canada, mission 2016, I think it was. Stayed on a boat for 6 days, going from island to island, staying up all night, taking turns. There's 6 or 7 on the boat, and with the IR equipment, not infrared, but for I think they call it, trying to capture something in one of these islands. Never could capture it because yet they supposedly are seen going from island to island up there. We spent six really beautiful days on a boat, though.
Yeah.
And then set camera sensors out at night on the island itself. And but they don't, you don't trick these things that easy. And they're not like an animal in the woods. And that's what most people want to treat them like.
Yeah.
And now that they're not finding them at all. They are delving into my theory about quantum physics and realizing that, yeah. And I try to present this when I do my PowerPoint program in these conventions that in a layman's terms so that, they can follow how restricted we are as human beings, yet how important we are as human beings, too. Very, very important. We're made to be ninth-dimensional beings, light beings. And we're going to get there if we keep our vibration going.
Yeah.
For the good.
Well,
I'm sorry, I keep changing the subject.
No, you're fine. You're fine. That's what we're here for. We said
some of us are going to make it to ninth dimension. I don't know about everybody.
That's what
you're drinking coffee, keep you awake.
I'm drinking tea.
That's what I should have done.
Yeah. Well, Ron, when we started doing this show, that was the idea that I pitched, and we would talk about at the beginning. This show is just, my favorite thing to do was I never wanted to go to a party, and then when I went to one, I would find someone to talk to, and inevitably the conversation would turn to Bigfoot or UFOs or ghosts or just something Anunnaki, ancient Egypt, anything weird. And then Jenny would spend 2 hours at 2:00 in the morning pulling me away. Once you've had one too many to drink, so we can get into anything. There's not really any off roads there, so we're good to go.
Well, we just don't have anything to drink.
Yeah, well,
I got tea.
Maybe we can switch that up next time.
So I thought it would be kind of fun because I enjoy hearing all the different names for Bigfoot from around the world. And I know quite a few of them, but since you are the Bigfoot guy, would you tell us some of the different names that people have for them in different places?
Oh, well, you know as much as I do, probably. You got the Yeren in China. You got the, what's one? We just talked to a minute ago about the one in Australia. Yowie in Australia.
Yeah.
You got the Sasquatch, which really came out of Canada. And you got Bigfoot, which was, coined here. And then you got the Yeti in Nepal, the Himalayas, and Wild Man in Siberia. There's like 600-800 names for these things.
Yeah.
Tribes have names for them. Everybody's all over the world got names for these things.
One of my favorites comes right here from Virginia, Ron. When I moved, so I'm from Virginia originally. I've been all over the place, but when we moved up towards the mountains, it was called, the first time I ever heard this, we would see people talking and they and they called Bigfoot in the Blue Ridge Mountains the Woodburger.
Woodbuggers.
Yeah, I've never heard that before.
Yeah. I've heard woolly booger, but woodburger.
Woolly booger, woodburger. And then I like Florida's skunk ape too. That's a cool name. Yeah. I didn't know Wild Man was from Siberia. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's what they called it when I was over there. Where they took us to a cave way back in the middle of nowhere where they'd been seeing one. And these people from Mongolia have this little village, the Shor people, SHOR, and they're descendants from Mongolia. And they do rituals for it, and all the time they see it, and they took us way back there on one of these things where the tires were taller than me, and across rivers and everything else and those things, and into this. And we hiked, after we drove as far as we could go, we hiked to this cave, which was huge, and there was a filming thing for Russia, put it on, and they flew us over there with interpreters and all that. And supposedly the wild man, they call it, lives in that cave. Well, we went in the cave. And actually, I found a track and showed it to a professor that was with us, and he saw it too. And then I found a nest over here, which looked very fresh, which was suspicious because anytime someone takes you to a spot, you always got to keep your flag up. You know? But we talked about it the next morning at breakfast, and we thought we could not agree with they wanted us to give 100%. The wild man living back there. But we can't do that when someone else takes you to that spot.
That's true.
You just don't know if it was set up or not. And,
yeah.
So anyway, we was on Moscow News.
Looking for wild men.
It was an experience, that's for sure. It was a good one.
So sightings around the world on different continents, does it all seem to essentially be the same thing? Or are there any significant differences between them and the sightings?
Yeah, there's some differences. Like the Yeti in Nepal is smaller. It's more like 6 foot tall. And you got these, whatever they're called up in Alaska, I guess you could call them Bigfoot, but they could be up to 15 feet tall.
Wow.
And also, we had one at our camp. I tell you, we'd never seen this track in camp, but we found out right outside our camp, well, probably half mile outside our camp, I found this 25.5-inch track.
Wow. Good Lord.
Yeah. And it was 13 feet apart and it wasn't running. So you got to do the math on that one. But with it, we never found a sizable track around our camp because it's just too big. It had to be a really woolly booger. A big one, yeah. A big woolly booger.
Man.
Anyway, I have a question now. Since we know about telomeres, that's what determines our lifespan. I wonder if these things have been created, some of them without not into their telomeres or have expanded telomeres. Because again, if they go out of our dimension, they're not going to age like we do anyway. But still, it would have telomeres if it's part human, and it is part human. So,
wow.
At least what I dealt with is part human. I don't know that they're all that way. In fact, I'm pretty sure they're not all that way. Most people hear just a scream or yell or something like that. I have had a lot of people tell me they've heard sounds exactly like the ones I've recorded. And people also hear their dog's name being called out in the forest when their dog's not with them. All kinds of things like that. Strange things. Wow. Well, they can do some strange things, I think, with the vocal mechanism. We had our camp we thought was being tore apart one time when it was inside the shelter. And we thought, the barrels we'd hauled in on mules and had it packed with food and stuff like that. We don't want to have to pack in and out all the time, so we could walk when we wanted to instead of taking horses. And we thought everything was being strung around. We looked out there, and nothing had changed. What do you do with that one? Nothing surprises me up there anymore, though. When David Paulides was up there doing his filming, he did a reproduction in what you see. I got about 15 minutes in that missing 401 that hunted. And he showed a light tube of light, probably about 3 or 4 foot long, just a glowing light. It wasn't shiny, it just glowed. I witnessed this thing. Carrying on did from our tent where it was just dark, getting dark, and we had an open tent on top, screened in. I seen this light start from over here and going, also just kept going down through the canyon. What do you do with that? I mean, it's a form of energy of some type. We have seen orbs up there. There's all kinds of anomalies going on around that camp. And probably still do, but again, I haven't been up there since the fire in 2018 when we did the filming.
Wow. Well, I do want to let everybody know, because we haven't mentioned it yet. I want to make sure we get it for the people who are listening later through the podcast. That, well, if you're interested in any of this, there are a couple books from Ron that you can go and purchase. You can check out his webpage. All the information is there at ronmorehead.com. So make sure you go to ronmorehead.com. I'll have that in the description down below. And for all you in chat, we have all the links posted at the top of the chat. So you can click on there and go. There's also a link there for one of the books, Quantum Bigfoot, and also the author of Voices in the Wilderness. And we got to find out tonight that there's a new one right around the corner. So we're looking forward to that one.
March 15th. There it is.
Yeah.
This is showing in reverse. This is showing in reverse, doesn't it?
No, it's right way.
Nope, we're good.
Oh, there you go. Good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn it backwards. I'll have 3 books. This is going to be released on March 15th. And the first book is Voices in the Wilderness. It's my chronicle, and it talks about all I went through these years going up there. And when I get to the sound that I heard, when I describe it, you can hear the sound if you download the link, which is in the book. It's the very last line on page 126. That link will take you to several sounds that you can play as you go through the reading. And then, of course, the Quantum Bigfoot is just the science behind how things work, and how I've kind of compared it with spirituality, because according to Tesla, what one man calls God, another one calls the laws of physics.
Yeah.
I think Einstein said, science without religion is lame, religion without science is blind, something like that.
Yeah.
And I think he would, if he could say it nowadays, he'd say spirituality instead of religion.
Mm-hmm. It's all connected.
Yeah.
Well, it's the outside of it. These scientists we talked about earlier who don't hook up to Bigfoot or something like that, or to spirituality, let's put it that way. They go to church on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
What for?
Yeah.
And I know some of them very well, and they won't get out of that box that they're conditioned in.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, but they got to get out of it if they're going to follow this thing. We never know. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, Joe Cunningham said in our chat that he really enjoyed Quantum Bigfoot. So he read Quantum Bigfoot. And
he has read it.
That he really enjoyed. Well,
go on my website. You can read some reviews. I got a lot of reviews on there. How people think about them, because it's 5-star stuff.
Awesome.
Well, it's inspired, and it's not me, and I'm not after my ego or nothing like that. It's all about what word I can get out that rings with somebody's truth.
Mm-hmm.
Just what we're all about, And I'm at the age now where I just want to have fun with it and do what I do and talk to nice people like you, and
thanks.
Hope that somebody picks up something from it.
Yeah.
And
I think it goes. I was going to say, I think it goes back to what you were talking about earlier about, like, which I've been talking about this a lot too. Like, we each have to do our own searching and seeking to find what it is that makes sense for us in our truth of figuring out what all of this is.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I've done for over 50 years. I've been doing that.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we're here for.
Yeah. All the work's
to
important.
Do the seeking. Yeah.
We all kind of stand on the shoulders of the people who came before us. So, all the work that's being done now, people are going to take that work and everything that's being done and keep building on it, hopefully until we finally get the message. And until it finally, so it's, the work is important, 100%. So one thing I want to bring up real quick, we still have one more audio clip, and we've already passed 9:30, so let's go ahead and at least get that in there.
Better listen to it.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this one before I play it, Ron?
I think it's my interaction with them in 1974 when my friend Bill and I was hauling supplies in with the horses and mules, and got there just the two of us, and we recognized a big track on the trail as he's coming in. Bigfoot track. So that kind of inspired us to think they're around. But they were already at camp when we got there, these beings, Bigfoot. I'm going to call them Bigfoot, better word.
Mm-hmm.
But we got there, and Bill started unloading the horses and mules, and I started preparing a fire for something to eat. And we started hearing these whooping sounds and knocking and wood pounding, and we learned from our years past that you just keep doing what you're doing. If they don't think they've got your attention, they're coming closer. So you don't shine white flashlights around. That'll get rid of them quicker than anything. But it was just getting dark when this started happening. And anyway, that's when I got the interaction that you're fixing to when I was yelling back at them when they started saying it. Because the cryptolinguist who studied these sounds said that he thinks the same vocal mechanism made the sounds from 72 that you heard before, male and female, that made these sounds here. There's also a little voice in these sounds. I don't know if you hear them on this or not, but I recorded it that night. Well, I think it was an adolescent, a male and a female. The male, the big male, was up behind me, and I think the female and the adolescent was down by the creek floor. And anyway, you'll hear me yelling back at it, because I was mimicking them. I had no idea what they were saying, but he thinks they were slowing their vocalizations down slow enough so that I could understand it. But I'm so thick-headed, so thick-headed. I was 29 then. I had no sense of destruction or nothing like that. Nothing could hurt me. But anyway, that's what went on. This is night of 74. Of course, I guess I was 33 then. So.
All right. Well, we'll play it. This is the second audio we have today. We'll go ahead and play that for you now.
Right there, just see movement right through there.
All right. Yeah, you know, that one, it just like you said, it kind of sounds like they're trying to speak slower, or they're trying to use some kind of to do something to almost maybe kind of mimic what they hear humans saying or something like that. I don't know. That's just the feeling I get from it.
Yeah.
That one, it almost sounds like what I've heard some Native American languages sound like, whatever they're saying, the words, you know? Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, the one of my CD is about 4 minutes long. That one little clip right there. I'm not able to hear what you're playing, so I'm just guessing it. But afterwards, Bill, after it was all over with that night, Bill and I was outside the shelter, which was the first. And that's the night I got to get glimpses. And Bill and I both got glimpses of the different times. And that was bold. I mean, they were really bold that night. And but afterwards, when they did stop, we went into the shelter. Inadvertently, Bill dropped the dust cover off his rifle, didn't know it. We went in the shelter. The next morning when I got up, I looked out the shelter's door, and there was a dust cover laying on a track, tilted on the track. So therefore, I knew the track had been made before we got there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, imagine. Then later, we looked up on the shelter's roof, and earlier that year, we had put alder brush up there, which had all dried out by this time. And we replastered it, put new plastic up there. If you got to do that to keep it from leaking. And this fresh alder was up there. Well, this dried up alder was up there, and there was 2 fresh ones up there that had been twisted off over the spring. It's kind of like a gifting thing, you know?
Yeah.
And then we've also had pine cones gutted up for us and laid there by our stove.
Aww.
Things like that would happen. So we had some friendly ones that weren't trying to eat us.
I'm so glad that you guys were interacting with the nice ones and not the ones that were smashing people to bits in Alaska.
I am too. I am so happy.
Goodness gracious. That's cool. That's really cool.
So I have heard many times there is a distinct smell when encountering Bigfoot. Did you guys encounter that when you were there? Is that something that you've experienced?
Not like we should have. They were so close to us. If there was a smell like that, we should have smelled it.
Yeah.
The only night that I smelled something like that was really rank was the night we had to shoot a bear in camp. And it wasn't the smell from a rifle bullet, you know. It wasn't that at all. But this bear was tearing our camp apart, and we thought, well, you know, if that's Bigfoot's never tore things up like that, even though we thought they were there one night. We thought we'd better look out there because we heard one of our packs from our mules rip. That's a bad sign. Because you got to carry things out with those. And So we thought we better look out there. We look out there, there's a bear, and they're getting all our food. And so that was 1976. And that's when it really, because we went out there and tried to run it off, and it did. It would just circle around, and so we go back and then come back around. I write about this in my book, the Voices in the Wilderness. And anyway, we ended up having to go out there, and the third time we went out, it didn't run away. And in fact, it stood up and dropped down, started coming at us.
Yikes.
So we ate it, put it in a barbecue the next day.
Oh my goodness.
Spit it out. That's it. I know. I don't hunt.
He
anymore.
just wanted your goodies.
Well, I know. That's all we wanted. But we haul them all the way up there just not to give them to him.
Yeah.
But it's really spooky when you skin out one of those things. It looks like a little person, Or
yeah.
Good sized bear.
They're very strange looking.
But,
So it looks like we have another question from Princess Boo Boo. She says, is it possible Bigfoot is more than just one species in one area?
Absolutely. Yes. We've been talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are different kinds all over the planet, probably all over the United States too, different kinds. They've been messed with by aliens. A lot of them been here a long time. They've evolved more than others, and then different things have happened to them. They're not all the same. And I just stand by that because I've seen a lot of different looks of people. I'm getting sleepy.
We're almost done.
A lot of different reports of what they look like, and I just can't believe they're all the same species, especially when you get into the alien component, possibly. And so yes.
Yeah.
And just to call them generically a Bigfoot, there's a Bigfoot. No, I don't think we should do that. We should say there's a giant there, and they're just not all the same.
Yeah.
Okay. We had another question from CMC as well. For large animals, the vocal voicings are very high in that most recent clip that we just played. Is there speculation that their vocal cords are small or human-sized?
No, they're bigger. They have several vocal cords in the analysis that I've heard. We have two. And their whistles, which I got a whistle that I should have sent you, I guess. They whistle through their vocal mechanism too, not through their lips like we do. But it's speculated that they have more than two vocal cords. And I don't know if they'd be smaller, but they can go through those lower and higher frequencies. It's unimaginable. I can't imagine how many frequencies. In fact, who Thinker Thunker is?
Who, what?
Thinker Thunker. He does
Thinker
analyze.
Thunker?
Yeah. he analyzes stuff, and he's pretty thorough.
Okay.
Well, he analyzed our sounds, and he said it made 5 octaves in one tone.
Oh, wow.
Humans can't do that. They can only do 3. And he's put this on a graph. And we have the proof is out there, the show that's out there, called The Proof is Out There. They had they accredited it as genuine. They have to. I mean, because they are genuine.
Yeah.
They can't be debunked. No one,
No.
People tried to debunk those for 50 years.
How would you even make all that noise? And then we got a comment from Joe Cunningham. He was one who said he had read your book. He said he studied with Dr. Grover Krantz at WSU. So know it more from that perspective, but quantum Bigfoot got me thinking in different terms.
Good. Yeah, Grover lived in the same town I did, up in Washington. And he's not a proponent of our sounds at all. He couldn't believe it. In fact, he wouldn't even talk to me. Well, he wouldn't. And you wondered, but he was a scientist at Washington University there. And he just couldn't believe that a primate, he was on the grounds of Gigantopithecus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Which that's where academia goes, because that's solid evidence that's around there's something big. But they don't know for sure that Gigantopithecus stood upright. They don't know that for sure. They don't know if it was thinking about even. They just don't know. They only found a few remains from it. But Grover thought that if these things existed, they had to be a remnant of that. And that's where academia stood then. And I think a lot of them are moving away from that a little bit. But I know we tried to get a hold of Grover, a couple times up there, and he didn't want to talk to us. He thought, he probably didn't even read Professor Curlin's report about how they represented an animal compared. Because Professor Curlin's, he's a high and notch, big wheel.
Yeah.
And he said it represented an animal over 8 foot tall. I don't know what Grover would have done with that if he'd read it, but anyway, I don't want to show any disrespect to Grover because he did believe he brought them onto the board. He was acknowledging that these things could be there, that maybe the Gigantopithecus did not go extinct. And maybe they didn't, and maybe it is exactly that, a remnant.
Remnant, yeah. Ron is getting tired. We need to wrap this up.
A relic hominid. And,
okay.
I would have never got that word. Yeah.
But it could very well be that. I'm just saying, I think that according to native lore and a lot of the stuff I've researched, they have crossbred with indigenous people, and that would, again, make some of them different and some of them diluted down into more human-like appearances. They wouldn't be as big as some of the ones that I know I've dealt with up there in the Sierras and some of the other people I've talked to.
Yeah. But then how did they get mixed up? Was it traditional means, which that is like baffling to me, or is it like, what we've been talking about with ET coming in and like messing up stuff, mixing things together? How did this happen?
Can we say both?
Yeah, maybe both.
Yeah, all of the above.
Yeah.
Well, they would have 20, like we mentioned earlier, 23 pairs of chromosomes, so that to give them be able to crossbreed with indigenous people. But Native Americans, I've talked to some, they say they live in two worlds. Well, there you are.
Yeah.
And also they say they live in trees. Now, if they can change their mass into energy, like I suggested, and how that can happen through energy and mass interchanging, they could energize or go into something to energize. However, some of them could just live in caves and go underground. Like I think a lot of them do. They stay out of our perception and out of our range of exploiting them quite well.
Yeah.
They'll either go underground in another dimension, or they just camouflage into a tree. Never see them.
Yeah.
How many times we might have walked right by one, not knew it.
Yeah.
And not even known it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I just think about the normal animals that are out in the woods that we know about, and you never see them because they're hiding from us too. So, it's like,
well, we're going to kill what we don't understand.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And too many people are hunting these things too, like to tag one, but they're never going to get close to one unless it's just an accident, like Bob Gibbon and Roger Patterson did. They got close to one, but their horses were kind of overriding in the stream going up Bluff Creek, and the horses were pounding in the stream, so they were probably downwind too. So that's how they creeped up on Patty like that. And she just walked away. She didn't run away.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Bigfoot video. Yeah.
Oh, isn't this fun?
It is.
It's a ton, and there's like, I hate to say it, Ron, but there's like, I think there's so much more that we could get into that we kind of just touched on tonight. A ton of things. And that's the way it always is. We talked about it before the show. It's 2 hours long. What in the heck are we going to talk about? And here we are, 2 hours just about.
And could have talked a lot more.
Yeah.
I was on Coast to Coast one time for 4 hours during the night.
Yes.
I had to really drink a lot of energy stuff.
I know that was really late at night.
Yeah. I used to love that show. And I feel like a lot of people, there's probably a lot of people like me who were introduced to some of these things through those old shows. And so I talked about it before the show. I think I heard you interviewed by Art on, I think when he was doing Midnight in the Desert, and
Mhm.
I had listened to it, and I was so taken by that episode that I told Janine, I was like, hey, you have to listen to this show
Mhm.
that I heard, and I let her listen to it because I knew she'd be intrigued by it.
We
Because
made our children listen to it on a
made our
car ride
children listen
to our
to it.
trip.
So it's a great show, and it was really great. It was really great to have you on tonight, and hopefully, we could have you back on down the road after your new book comes out, and we can get into some of these other topics we wanted to talk about tonight.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and there'll be a lot more going on. And as time goes on, we learn more and more. So there's a lot more,
Absolutely. Yes.
and it's all fallen into a groove. Well, I think a special spot. Most important thing I can say, if we're wrapping this up or something, is that how important it is to respond to all your issues, things that come to you, challenges, I should say, in life, positively. Because you're not going to tell my grandkids, you never lose. You either learn something or you win. No such thing as losing. So don't consider yourself a victim, and treat everybody with respect and kindness, including the Mother Earth, because we're all here for the experience, and raise our vibrational frequencies so we can be that ninth dimensional being and not be an AI sixth dimensional.
Yeah. Still banging the sticks together. Princess Boo Boo says that she really hopes that one day you'll get to come to Australia and see them down there, because a lot of what you believe matches what the Aboriginal believe.
Yeah, well, I find a lot of indigenous people believe what I'm saying. I could,
Yeah.
Well, it fits with how they believe.
Yeah. And it's I've seen this going back to the 90s when when I first started getting into these topics, everything was separated. You had UFO people, you had Bigfoot people, you had ghost investigations, you had mediums who talk to the other side. And I think what we've seen over in that span of time is what we were talking about tonight. That if you are interested in Bigfoot, then you need to be looking into UFOs. And if you're looking into UFOs, you need to be looking into mediumships. And if you're into mediumships, you need to be. All of this stuff is really connected, and I think that's a big, large picture that we need to focus on moving forward in all of these different fields.
Absolutely. Yeah. And balancing yourself so that you can sense things. Because we all have intuition. We all have it. It's kind of homing in on it and working with it. But you have to balance yourself with meditation. Make sure you're lined up in your chakras. That's what I think, anyway.
Absolutely. You're not going to hear any argument from me, Ron.
All right. Well, that's excellent. For all of you who are listening to us on the podcast, whenever or wherever you're listening to us, we hope you enjoyed the program. Thank you so much for listening to us. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave us a review. It really does help get the show out to more listeners, which brings more attention to all the things that we love to discuss on this show. So thank you guys. Have a wonderful night, and we will see you all next time.